Hey guys, welcome to this video. I'm excited about this video because I'm going to be covering the Indian defenses, which are commonly seen, so I think it's very important to go over. It's part 3 of my opening repertoire. Alright, let's get straight into it. 1d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and already here's white. There's some choices. There's knight c3 and the choice I recommend, which is knight f6. However, I'll just quickly show why I recommend against knight c3, and that's because of bishop b4, the Grunfeld, and to begin with, if we play knight f6 instead, it avoids this, and I think it's logical to avoid this. I think this position is probably one of the better openings for black, and also by avoiding this, we reduce the amount of opening theory we have to learn. I might go into this potentially in the future in another video as a responses for black video, but for now, as an opening repertoire for white, I'm recommending here knight f3. From here, there are two main moves I'm going to look at, and that's bishop b4 check. That's the Bogo Indian defense, and the other one is b6. That's the Queen's Indian. I'm also going to look later in this video at the King's Indian defense, which is a little bit different. Okay, so after b6, I'm going to recommend bishop g5, and partially because there's similar themes to the previous repertoire, and part of this repertoire is keeping it minimal, keeping it effective yet sort of easy to remember and easy to identify, so that we've seen in some previous videos. So I'm recommending bishop g5, and then we see after bishop e7, e3, castles, bishop d3, bishop b7. And after castles, let's have a quick look at what happens if black tries to take the center. So d5, takes, queen c2, knight d7, knight c3, all logical sort of moves. Rook e1, and here white can play knight e5. And also quickly worth mentioning why we play knight e5 is there's no real minority attack, unlike in the Queen's Gambit, because the pawn isn't on c6 here, it's on c7, so there's actually nothing to attack. So that's why this quite important resource of knight e5 is available here. This knight on e5 can't either be taken. We'll have a quick look why. Takes, suddenly the knight on f6 is under attack, so just for example, we move it, and
check.
We have this threat, so that's something black needs to keep under wraps. So just moving back here, the knight on e5 is pretty safe, can't be taken by the knight at this point. So the strongest continuation here for black, and the common one, is h6, bishop takes, knight takes, and then a nice move, bishop b5. I think we've gotten sufficiently far in memory work, so memorizing move orders and things, to start looking at themes and start looking at ideas and intentions for white. And there's a few things. So improving your rooks, of course, is always important. Rook c1, for example, piling up on the c7 pawn, and this is one big theme. Let's try to get rid of these lines. Yeah, sorry, the only way I know how to get rid of them is by doing a move back, but I'll try to find a shortcut key for next time. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there's piling up on the c7 pawn, improving the rooks, of course. That's something we do in every game, try to make our pieces as productive as possible. So improving the c3 knight is another concept, and that's via e2, f4. From f4 we can potentially come to d3. d3 will reinforce e5. We may want a knight on e5. And these are all situational and depending on precisely what your game involves. Another big concept here is exchanging these light squared bishops, and usually that's done on c6. And even though I talked about how the light square bishop for the black pieces might be a bit misplaced because it's sort of staring at d5, it is true, and you might think, well, why are we exchanging it? Well, that's because the result is often a very strong knight and a very yeah, like it results in a lot of pressure that knight on c6. So just a typical continuation, although this may not necessarily be all the strongest moves. I'm not really, I just want to show what can happen, and a lot of people are very particular. They might say, oh, on that move computer said it was slightly stronger to not do that first, or maybe play a5 or something, but I'm not overly concerned about that yet, and just want to show more so themes. So maybe here we can prove our knight, something like that for black. Knight e5. There's this sort of move for black, for the black pieces. Yeah, moving the bishop. We can then sort of swing. So just have a quick look instead of arrows. Yeah, there's a whole variety of moves. Just say something like that. It's maybe not the best, but not too bad. Yeah, the result can be this knight. We may look to exchange the queen on c6, and overall, as a result, pile up on the c pawn. I would say here white has a slight advantage. It's not a winning advantage, but it's definitely something to work with, and it's something with a clear goal. So we know what we're doing, and we know what we're trying to achieve. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit of editing here and fast forward back to when we played bishop g5, see what else black can respond with. So here we are after bishop g5, and I'll show sort of one variation here, and that's h6. However, I want to emphasize the importance of playing reactive chess. The purpose of this video is to not get overwhelmed by the opening, not think, oh, I don't know what's going on, I'm in for a surprise, I'm already at a disadvantage. I want you to feel comfortable with being able to respond to, for example, the Queen's Indian. However, I don't want to, for me, and if this is not how, if you don't agree, then that's perfectly fine, but for me, it's not about memorizing too many variations and move orders at this stage. It's something, look, I'll try to do in the future, but I don't think it's as important as understanding the position. But sorry, just moving on. It's all the same sort of stuff. So as sort of said, the purpose is to not feel disadvantaged in the opening, and it's all the same sort of developing moves, castling that we've seen before. So black might castle here, bishop d3, might see c5, just calmly continue on castling. All these sort of moves are just good moves, and it's about responding to what happens in the particular position, and determining and seeing what your opponent's playing, making a plan. Let's just hypothetically say your opponent does a move like bishop takes, which may not really be a good move. It may not be terrible, but immediately what should be going through your mind is something significant's happened, and that's a bishop's been exchanged. So we might be looking at the light squares as weaknesses, potentially, and we might be considering how to exploit those and what we can do about it. Okay, though, so yeah, in future videos I will go into more details about the more specifics and in-game concepts that result and etc. But I'll leave it at that for the Queen's Indian for now. I'll now go to the Bogo. I'll do some editing quickly to get over there. Here we are at the Bogo, and that's when black plays bishop b4 check. Yeah, in that break I just had a glass of water with half a lemon squeezed into it, very refreshing. Anyway, here I would suggest knight d2, and just quickly, I don't want to go into this into too much detail, I just recommend against that, and I'll look into this in more detail in a black repertoire video. But here black can play a5, c5, or knight d7, and queen e7, and all of these are quite nice moves. So I quite like queen e7 here, and it's sort of an awkward, a kind of difficult position for for white, and I don't recommend it. Capturing isn't doable.
Check.
Like this sort of stuff. So yeah, it's hard to. Black does call the shots here a lot. So I'm going to recommend against this. Instead, I'm going to recommend knight d2. From here, I'll very quickly touch on d5, it's not a really such a good move for black. It's not very playable, and that's because of queen a4. Of course, it's not a massive blunder. It doesn't do anything too bad, but the knight on c6 holds in the c pawn, and it just leads to not such a harmonious position for black. So instead, let's look at what black more likely plays, which is castles. Here we're playing e3, d5, bishop d3, knight d7, castles. And the problem here is white hasn't wasted a move on a3, and the bishop might start to feel a little bit silly now, because, for example, the knight may move to b3 or something, and it won't even be able to take, and it may be a little bit in the wrong position. So bishop takes, and this is already quite a nice position for white. We might see b6, then maybe c takes, e takes, and then queen c2, bishop b7, bishop b4, and we can see the dark square bishop already in action here. And yeah, this is, so when we may see rook e8, and it just is a slightly advantageous position for white, for the white pieces, because of this, that he didn't lose this tempo. He basically is up a tempo from not having to waste the move a3. Yeah, so something like rook c1, rook c8 is actually already a nice move, and this is one thing, as maybe a move order thing to remember about this opening, about the Bogo, is knight g5 is nice. We can see there's actually some mate threats going on here, so g6 is forced. So let's just, for example, say black didn't do anything, there's a mate in 2, bishop a7. Well, yeah, there's knight h7 and mate. Because of the dark squared bishop preventing that square. Yeah, otherwise there's also potential queen forks and things like that, but overall it's yeah, it needs to be done something about. So in this opening, yeah, in the Bogo, just remember knight g5 is a theme. So here black has weakened his king, and also, yeah, weakened his dark squares quite significantly. Sorry, that's too many. Yeah, it's too many squares, but yeah, he's weakened his dark squares around his king and weakened his pawn structure. From here we can see things like queen a4. The themes later on will probably be trying to stack on the c-file with our rooks. We've got an eye on some important squares, some control on some important squares. The light square bishop for black maybe isn't so good. As well, black's probably going to weaken his king side even more. I'll do a little bit of editing to get out of this and get back to the original Bogo. So this is the original Bogo position. So I'm not recommending playing a3, wasting a move or something like that. I'm going to keep this concise and not go into what that will lead to, but let's stay away from that. But that's the conclusion for this video. So thanks very much for watching. Next video will be on the King's Indian and maybe some other stuff if I can fit it in. But hope you're enjoying your chess. Hope you're getting a little bit more confident with some of these openings. Thanks very much for watching.